Michael Johnston and Rochelle Robinson were two friends who had a relationship. Michael was 25, married, and the father of 2 children. Rochelle was 19, had bright red curly shoulder-length hair with an effervescent smile, was outgoing, opinionated, and a free spirit. She was working at a fast food restaurant while studying to become a teacher. Michael had been conducting a secret love affair with Rochelle. On the evening of June 26, 1994, Michael and Rochelle went to a friend's house in Tacoma, Washington to play Magic: The Gathering, also known as Magic, a tabletop fantasy card game. But 6 hours later, they were both found dead. Michael and Rochelle left the card game in separate cars. She left around midnight, and not long after, her secret lover Michael also left the game. They met in a school parking lot where Michael parked his car and then got into Rochelle's car, a 1988 gray Mazda. Sometime later, Rochelle's car would be discovered here on a quiet road near the shooting range called the Tacoma Sportsman's Club. At 4:45 in the morning, Michael's body was discovered by a woman leaving the Sportsman's Club after spending the night here on the campgrounds. Michael had been briefly handcuffed, then shot in the head, stabbed, had his throat slit, and was left by Rochelle's car. That afternoon, about 4 miles away from the club, Rochelle's body was discovered lying under a cardboard box by a remote road. She had multiple stab wounds around her neck, and her throat was slashed all the way to the bone before her body was covered by the cardboard box. Someone had spotted the white flattened cardboard box among some trees and brush, and her lifeless body underneath. Evidence indicated that she tried to run away, but was caught and killed. She was also wearing Michael's t-shirt inside out. Police believed that the motive was jealousy over the love affair she was having with Michael. The crime scene was first investigated by the Pierce County Sheriff's Department. A search and rescue volunteer team combed the area and found no further evidence. A year soon passes, and when seemingly no headway was made, Michael's wife Janet hires a private investigator named Jim Wright. When the investigator ran out of resources, he called upon a psychic who had helped in other criminal investigations. She said she thought it had to do with the occult, which made people seem to concentrate and talk more about that than the actual 2 murders. We must all keep in mind that it was common back then for young adults to play magic, or Dungeons and Dragons, and have crystals and wizardry figurines. It did not portend that they practiced any of the dark arts. It was a fad. The murderer was a person with ill intent. There was nothing magic about it. Michael's car was found in Spanaway near Rochelle's place, 5 miles from the murder site, and a mile from where Rochelle lived. So they likely met up there, drove to the road near the Sportsman's Club to have sex in Rochelle's car. Police theorize they were interrupted by their killer, who forced the couple to get dressed, which is why Rochelle hastily put on Michael's t-shirt. After Michael was murdered, the killer then abducted Rochelle and drove her to the remote road to murder her. It would turn out that Michael and his wife Janet had each taken out large life insurance policies on each other. However, Janet claimed they had mutually decided to take out the policies for the purpose of providing for their children in the event something happened to either of them. She was cooperative with the police, and they became satisfied she was not involved in the murders after she passed a polygraph. Now, a friend of Rochelle would come forward later and claim that in the months leading up to her death, Rochelle had become fearful that she was being stalked. Apparently, Rochelle had lunch with a man who refused to leave her alone. He would frequently come to her place of employment at the fast food restaurant and stare at her, and followed her home multiple times. However, no one actually knew the identity of the alleged stalker, but they were able to provide a description of him for a composite sketch. The man was described in 1994 as white, 25 to 30, 5'10", 170 pounds, with brownish blonde hair and acne. He walked with a slouch and may have worked for a glass company. The case became more complicated when the detective called upon the psychic Nancy Meyer to enter the investigation. He brought her to the road where Michael was murdered. She put forward that 3 people were involved in the murders and that they were connected to his fascination with the occult and fantasy games. She believed that the killer and the 2 accomplices had come upon the 2 lovers in the car and stabbed Rochelle. They then drove him to the sportsman's club where they proceeded to kill him. According to her, a dragon wing medallion was also involved somehow. She believed the man who murdered Michael participated in occult-like activities with him, and that he had 2 male accomplices when he committed the crime. The police, however, believe the killer is among her friends and associates, and it has nothing to do with the occult. They believe that a key to solving the case is the cardboard box that was placed over Rochelle's body. Originally, the box held large sheets of high-grade paper used only by professional printers. Forensic tests have convinced investigators that it was brought to the site by the killer. Further evidence suggests that for several years the box may have been in the killer's home or vehicle. Contrary to the police's theory, Nancy Meyer thought the couple initially drove to the remote road that Rochelle was attacked and murdered first, and then the 3 perpetrators then abducted Michael and drove Rochelle's car to the sportsman's club before murdering him. Investigators believe that the couple was murdered by either a jealous ex-boyfriend or stalker of Rochelle. But psychic Nancy Meyer and private investigator Jim Wright believe that the couple was killed because of their involvement in the occult. 3 composites were made, 1 of the killer and 2 of the accomplices, by Nancy Meyer. According to her, the killer was in his 30s and was a college professor. He may have killed before. His accomplices were much younger and were under great control of the killer. According to Nancy Meyer, they were in danger of being murdered themselves. 27 years have passed and the murderer or murderers are still free. Somebody always knows something, they say. And again, in spite of Nancy Meyer's claims, police do not think the murders were connected to the occult and continue to believe Rochelle was the killer's main target. For anyone with information on this case, should contact Tacoma Pierce Crime Stoppers, www.tpcrimestoppers.com. Rochelle and Michael, you are gone but not forgotten.